Hi, this is Beau Hauser, or Raphael for many of you, and this is the third of a three-part series about the plasticizing of our oceans. And in this segment, I'm going to talk about what we can do, what you can do to change this issue, change what's really happening. And not just on a personal basis, although that's certainly something you can do, but also on a global one. And it's not that hard. It's about taking a stand on a certain issue that has to do with money. We'll get to that in a second. Quick recap on what we've been talking about. Worldwide, the oceans have become a dumping ground and have become essentially what becomes a plastic soup of 5 tons of plastics that are being poured into the oceans every year. 80% from land, 20% being dumped from the sea. Birds, mammals, 100,000 sea mammals die every year, and 1 million birds die every year from ingesting or being caught up in plastic items. They feed on it, they mistake it for food, or they gets caught up in their GI jacks and they die. Sometimes really bad, painful deaths. Not a nice way to go with a plastic bag wrapped around your snout. Sorry, we'll have to put that in. But, so you get 46,000 pieces of plastic, right, per square mile of ocean on the planet. Think about that, 46,000 pieces of plastic per square mile. And in 2050, there will be more plastic in the ocean than there will be fish. And through the process of biomagnification, this affects human beings because these chemicals that are in plastic, plastic, of course, is not a renewable resource. It's plastic bags, for instance, are of course an oil, what do you call it? Comes out of the oil industry. This is not anything that you want. It's full of carcinogens. Whether you incinerate it, you burn that stuff, it's going to put carcinogens into the air you breathe. If you landfill it, it's going to put carcinogens into the aquifers, into the water you drink. And you can't get rid of this stuff. If you put it in the oceans, which we do, it leaches into the waters and gets into kills plankton and algae and everything in its wake, because it's a hormone disruptor, and fish are ingesting it, and it's killing it. And we are getting it in our systems, and especially through biomagnification, it's getting into our tissues in greater and greater parts, because it exponentially increases, the toxicity levels of increase as you go further up the food chain. Now, let's talk about money. So, people who really don't even care about this issue at all, who really don't really care about the environment or about being stewards of the planet or anything like that, who really couldn't care less about plastic bags or any of that stuff. I want to say a harder word, but I won't. They do care about their bottom line. And even if a tax is 5 cents, or in Europe where it might be 20 cents, that's where all of a sudden they care, and where they'll actually give a damn and stop it. And they'll use, they'll either carry their shit, or they'll use a cloth bag, or they'll change their behavior because of this monetary incentive, right? If this theoretical environmental thing for them, it doesn't really mean anything. But when it comes down to money, all of a sudden people get really uppity about it. That's why this issue is so incendiary. In 2002, Ireland became the first country to initiate this plastic bag tax. Pretty large tax, because Western Europe, they're willing to do that sort of thing. The country wasn't necessarily, its citizens weren't like, rah, rah, yeah, let's do this. But it passed. Things changed really fast. Within like a couple months, like 94% of plastic bags had been discontinued, meaning decrease in use, because people weren't using them, because you had to pay a tax in order to get them. So people were using renewables. They were bringing things themselves, bringing cloth. They saw an immediate change in the environment. No more plastic bags everywhere, in the trees, in the sewerways, in the waterways, cluttering the aesthetics of their country. And a really interesting social change happened in that a stigma became attached to it. All of a sudden, if someone was seen with a plastic bag, there was a social stigma attached to it. Where, what are you doing with that? That is not something we do. That is not good. And that was a really powerful thing, something people hadn't really thought about. Something that's really kind of foreign to us because we're so used to these things. But so Ireland has totally changed the footprint of their plastic use, just based on that one tax. That tax was also used to create millions and millions. That tax went to the government to create a fund, an environmental fund, to clean up the degradation that had occurred there. We've also had experiences of this in our own country. In 2010, Washington, D.C. Initiated a 5-cent tax on plastic bags. And within months, consumption had gone down 85%. And from like 23 million plastic bags a month to 3 million. So, an enormous amount. And if I didn't say this before, in the U.S. we use 380 billion plastic bags a year. 380 billion. And corporations love them because they're so cheap. Worldwide it's 1 trillion a year, which is 2 million per minute. 2 million plastic bags per minute. So, in New York City, where I am, we were supposed to have a plastic bag tax, which unfortunately was not even going to go to environmental fund, but was going to go to retailers last year, in 2017. At the last minute, this was scuttled in Albany. God knows why, because Albany is so screwy. There is some clamor idea that there's going to be not a tax this coming year, but a ban on plastic bags, which would be great. I'll take that. That's fine. I don't need there to be a tax. I just need them to be not accessible through whatever means possible. If you make it more difficult for people to get it, they will stop using it. So, what can you do right now? I challenge you. If you go to the market, someone is going to give you like 2 plastic bags if you just pick out 1 box of cookies. Guess what? You don't really need those 2 plastic bags. Carry those cookies out. Bring it with you. Or, here's an even better idea. You know what? That's just 1 plastic bag, 2 plastic bags. So what? Be okay with the tax. Okay? Because that way, you're not just being a steward for yourself or the environment. You're being a steward for millions of people, because it's going to affect the entire United States. Okay, New York anyway. But this is a national thing. Last November, California passed. It was Proposition 67 was on the ballot in California, and it went up to the voters, and it passed from 52 to 48%. And already a lot of cities in California, San Francisco, San Diego, maybe not San Diego, Los Angeles, San Jose, had already passed plastic bag bans or taxes, but as of November, the entire state is now plastic bag free. So it's really not that hard, whether it be through a tax or a ban. I challenge you to accept either, whatever your local legislature is putting up. I don't care. Just go for it, okay? You're not really going to mind that nickel so much. And guess what? If you don't take the bag, you won't pay the tax. So it won't cost you anything. So I hope this has been helpful and informative. And I hope you got you to be a little thoughtful about the issue and how important it is. And how really worldwide we really can make a difference. We've made a huge negative difference in just the last couple of decades on this issue. But with some work, we can make a huge positive difference if we are willing to change how we think about the issue. Or rather, let me rephrase, if we're willing to think. Thank you.